Kraken games have begun already. You've got 3 waves of the Kraken and the Kraken Privateer. And let's go into Drake Day in its earnest. Now, uh, taking a step back from the mighty Krakens, we're going to start with the normal ships. So, the first up is the Dragonfly Black. And the Dragonflies in general are, in my opinion, both the black and the yellow, are not worth their value currently at. They are flying motorcycles. They do seat 2 people. These vehicles right here in general are something that is, in my eyes, going to be something very useful. But it's definitely a buy-in game. Last time I was on a Dragonfly, when I tested out the back seat, you actually seat backwards. With you can use your weapon though. I'm curious how far you can spin forward. I'll have to try that the next time I'm on it. But the weapons, you can see the pilot controls, rider controls, I guess you could call it, is these 2 right here. Also, the Dragonfly is it's probably the longest of the flying motorcycles. It's rather bulky. However, it seats 2 people, and also it has those decent size weapons. Um, I think of the X1 series of ships, both the traditional X1 and the X1 Force. They only have a single weapon, and I think of Nox might be something closer in comparison to the weapon systems of the Dragonfly. However, they don't have an extra person who can be carrying like a railgun even or a grenade launcher. This vehicle can do a lot of havoc. Furthermore, this does have a small amount of cargo space on it. So I think this is a pretty interesting ship. You have cargo space, or then you can think about the pilot and the rider and the co-rider. You can think of the passenger. You can think of their cargo space to store on this vehicle. A lot of good loot or things you find. And, when we start getting to outposts, these type of vehicles become more valuable, but these are definitely a buying game, in my opinion. I will also mention that your Kraken can store, I think it's 6 of these things. On the Kraken Traditional, not the Privateer, it has a bay that is designed to take them and deploy them out of the back of the ship, like the back top. So the Herald. The Herald is a data runner, and it has scanning systems on board. Usually, when you see a Herald, there's a little satellite dish on it designed for that purpose. But basically, the entire ship is like rigged up underneath it to have data ports. And what I like about the Herald is it's like one of those nothing you need, everything's involved. Nothing you don't need is on this ship. You're talking about just a pure data runner. It has very light weaponry, but it's very fast for its sake. It's meant to outrun things. You're talking about a single size 2. You're talking about a single size 1. A few size 1 missiles, 8 of them. Uh, it's meant to be a very specific ship. It is flyable. You can buy it in game for 1.1 million. It wouldn't be a bad buying game, but also if you're interested in upgrading, say a referral program like we just talked about the Dragonflies, or a referral program, MPUV, it wouldn't be a terrible cost, and it is something useful. I will add it has extremely Spartan quarters, but it does have a place to put your head for 1 person, and it also has a restroom. So the hygiene factor is pretty cool. I also like the fact that its software for its computers are designed to basically destroy the data if you do get caught, out. And you can see the primary thruster right here in the back is nearly a third of the ship. It's big, and this is just a fast straight liner ship. It's a very clever design. Okay, on to the Drake Cutlass Black. Now, the Cuddy Black is one of those beasts that people love and hate. The Cuddy Black is just how do I put this? It has a negative connotation of being a pirate boat at all times. And I don't believe it is that. I think it's one of those situations where it's like it is what you make it. Just like a crossbow in the Middle Ages was a weapon to defend a castle just as much as it was a weapon for Van Helsing in our fantasy novels to hunt vampires or something. Yes, I went there. The cutlass is a tool. The cutlass is an absolute tool, and what you need to keep in mind is it's your choice how you use your tool. I don't like the fact the cutlasses are uh, heroes or bad guys based on their looks and based on their notoriety. And I think CIG likes to play that up because Drake is well known for utility based ships that are very good bang for your buck. And that means that pirates like them just as much as anyone else would. So, one of the things about the Cutlass Black is it is not the upgraded model of the black of the Cutlass series, but it is a good all arounder. It does need a. I'm not gonna BS you. It does need a pass. It does fit two crew nicely. You can run it solo for the most part, although obviously you can note that there is a turret that would not be manned. You would have your turret that is running a very basic turret for firing arcs for other designs, and then you have all that forward-facing weaponry of the pilot. Between the two of them and spinning this ship, you'd be pretty well off. But if something does go wrong, this ship does have limited defenses. It does have a very limited, a single size 2 shield. You're talking about very limited armor. Um, when you hear the devs keep going on about, oh, it's paper thin armor, with Drake, this is the type of ship they're talking about. This is definitely Drake aesthetic, to say the least. There's a single bulkhead in the middle of the ship that cuts off the cargo area to the rest of the ship. So if you say get around, like if one of those size 7 Ares's Infernos penetrates the back and ventilates it, your cockpit would still be safe, but the rest of the ship is in that other section. If you notice a lot of other ships, they'll have multiple doors and along them to try to help seal that up. I will add that there is a bit of a like a dot on the red and the blue and such. There is a little bit of like a pass through in the back, but I'm just talking about like the actual main area. Like the main area is a single door, so there's basically 2 zones to this entire ship for it to be ventilated. So you would want, if you're going into combat with this ship, even now, I'd be wearing a helmet and suit, just like a lot of smaller ships, honestly, but especially on this ship. It is something I think over time, especially with armor actualization, people will be feeling that pain. But I think also these things will be doing some shocking victories that people will if you underestimate this, it's at your own peril. So do bear that in mind. It will have a tractor beam when that's finally initialized. It's going to be a very small one, but it is worth mentioning. On to the Buccaneer. The Buccaneer is a $110 price point ship. When I think of ships that are in the Drake stable, the Buccaneer is one of those buying games. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's as useful. I just got done explaining how the Drakes are more bang for your buck and so much usability and utility and such and all that and tools that anyone can use, like pirates and anyone else, to scoop a wreck or whatever else after it's blown up. The Buccaneer is 1.4 million in game. It's definitely an interesting thing to consider. Even buying in game, I pause. It has a ton of weaponry, but when I look at the Cutlass Black, look at all the weaponry it has, and look at the price point. So I'm not saying the Buccaneer is as big as a Cutlass, but it is nice that you can fly the Buccaneer by the single pilot it has, and you do have a lot of weaponry at your disposal. It's also very kind of, for lack of a better term, I feel that it's very squishy. I feel that it is not really. You're talking about 2 size 1 shields on there. So they're about the same as a size 2, but they have a little less buffer in theory. Um, I just so you have a faster recharge rate with the two size ones versus the more buffer the size two, but you won't be able to take as much actual damage with this. So I caution that like a large amount of damage on a wing will blow it right off, including your engine. So I don't know. I feel the Buccaneer is kind of built to be in a group. When you see the videos of the Kraken, you see these things coming off at four in a pack. When you're in a wolf pack like that, I guess anything is very terrifying. It does a lot of damage. It is very squishy. It's an all offense, no defense type ship. That's kind of what they were going for. Okay, back to the Drake Cutlasses. The Cutlass Red is a ship that was one of the greatest APCs in the game and saving ships and everything else. People would park this thing outside a bunker mission, and for now it's 135 USD. You could have a ship that can VTOL in, allows respawn with two med beds in the back, and then if you die, you just respawn with all your gear except for the gun you were carrying in the back, and then you go back in. People would leave the doors open on the back as long as you're in a suit. No matter where you were, that was a great way to do it. It has a turret that's actually a spotlight instead of a weapon system here. They took the weapons off, as I mentioned, and then they left only the front weapons. And they're the weapons are barely worth mentioning, but the action is in the back of this ship, and unfortunately, up until 3.15, this ship was truly a sight to behold. When Ash's Machinima shoots for Divisions, highly recommend that series, by the way, if you haven't already checked it out. Check out Star Citizen Divisions. I'll put a link in the cards at the end of this video. We would carry these Drake Cutlass Reds. At least one of us would bring one of these out, and we'd leave the doors open, and if anybody died on the set, bam, you'd wake up in here. And that happened more than I'd like to admit. And that was very valuable because we would often be shooting on the previous episodes in very remote locations, like places that don't even have quantum on a moon. So we had a lot of mishaps, well, a few mishaps. And we even tested out using a spotlight for machinima shoots, like, and then when it's a dark out, to try to do day for night. Night for day. Yeah. Anyway. It worked out great for very limited things. So let's talk about what it is now. I just extolled the virtues of this ship up until 3.15. You're saying, well, wait a minute, we're in 3.15.1 now. Okay, Drake Cutlass Red has been nerfed greatly. It can no longer respawn people. It has 2 Tier 3 medical beds in the back. Tier 2 is what's required for regeneration, Tier 2 and up. So, unfortunately, this ship does not allow for that. What is its value then? Well, its value is what it's always meant to be. It was meant to be a rescue ship. It's meant to be an ambulance that you pull your wounded friend to, and you park him on a bed, and then he or she is able to be healed enough to keep them from dying completely. So you know how you have that timer where the person's incapacitated? In theory, this ship should have the ability, or at least in the future, should have the ability to plop them on a bed, and the machine just constantly is healing them, just enough to keep them from timering out. Further, what it already can do is if you're shot in the leg or something in a mission, and then you manage to stumble back, or your friend drags you back, they can throw you on the bed, and this will heal basic injuries. It'll at least give you health points on that leg to walk around on, even if it can't heal the complete injury of a more serious injury. The idea is the higher tier of the bed, the more materials it consumes with those high-level things it needs to do to finally actually fix you. But they can do basic things to give you all the health points. And one of the biggest things about the, I would say, world that this ship is being dropped into is that health is going to be very important, but it's overshadowed by the Apollo series. The Apollo Medevac and Triage, while they are more expensive ships, over 100 USD plus more, they are in a situation where they're going to be the vital tool. They're going to be the tool that everyone uses because you can modularly change them to act like this ship. In fact, have 3 of these beds in the back, tier 3s. And then on the other side, you can have a regeneration bed or 2. You can have tier 2s. For now, you can outfit both of the rooms on the Apollo with 3 tier 3s or 2 tier 2s or 1 tier 1. The top of the line bed that leaves no trace, so to speak, aside from like the minor things, and is the best regeneration bed where you won't have a ton of scars when you wake up from death and get regenerated. So what I look at with this is it's going to be useful, but it's very limited. I still feel that it's very handy, but unfortunately, if your friends are just getting one of these as their only ship or upgrading to this, keep in mind you're gonna have to answer. Well, it really doesn't have much damage. Well, it doesn't really have much capabilities. Well, it really lacks a lot of the things that really sell the other ships. And I would rather have a tractor beam on here than this light, to be honest, or just another turret, because it's a target. People do not leave Cutlass Reds alone. Yeah, especially NPCs. They don't have any heart. Okay, so the Vulture. What can I say about this ship? The Vulture is one of those ships that's still in progress, and it is not a ship that I can recommend for its price, but is definitely one of those that when it is in game, it is probably going to be a buying game. It will make you money. It is a great ship. It is the beginning of the salvage ships. You can see the one seat prospector style. Like don't like that's basically what it is. Limited support services inside, and the idea is that this thing has these big mechanisms on the front that are designed to kind of ply apart things and salvage material from them on a broken ship, on a broken vehicle, whatever it may be. This will take care of. I think also with Outpost, it will be kind of entertaining to see kind of armies of these vultures kind of swarming in after an A2 bombs something. I would love to see if an Outpost still has parts laying around and this thing scoops them up like all over. But the thing about this system is it has the tractor beams on this claw that are built in, so it'll be able to really clamp onto things. It will make you money. I do not think it's worth the price point. That's my only gripe. It's considered like an advanced starter ship. And I feel like that to me this ship is very interesting. It's not the kind of ship for me. Maybe that's why I have that opinion. And with the way the Vulture handles its utility, I love that its utility is off the scale. I just wish this was maybe at 110 or so. But I'm not kidding you. It will make you a ton of money. It is the anti-prospector. It is basically the salvage side of the prospector. It's the doppelganger of it. And I really like its tractor beam assignment. And I love these scraper beams, they're calling them. These little jets that are going to rip apart stuff as well. So I think this will be one of the first ships in the game that will have salvage. When this comes in, so will salvage. And pretty cool ship. Cuddy Blue. This is a ship that I wish I could get the cockpit off of for the black. Okay, there we go. I'm done. But no. At $175 price point, it starts to be one of those hard to justify, but it's a beautiful ship. And yes, it really does have red and blue lights like a police car or whatever you want to call it, law enforcement. And it is like the red was the ambulance, the fire truck, whatever you want to call it. This is the police car / law enforcement car. And when you look at this thing, the Cuddy Blue is a 2-seater, just like the other Cutlasses. By the way, these seats are tall, especially the co-pilot. You like sit on the ground and then it scoots you up really far. Anyway, the visibility is better with this cockpit. I really like this style. It really is curved like that in the game, and it really doesn't have those hexes on the sides like the traditional Drake ships do. It's very cool looking. It does have the better turret. It does have a lot of upgrades to it. There's one catch, big catch right now. The Cutlass Blue was never completed the way it should have been. The back of the ship is not modular. There is a pile of freeze beds baked back there, like those carbonite style tall beds, and they're like I think there's 6 on each side. There's like 12 of them in the back. And what's crazy about that is this is a bounty hunter ship. It doesn't look like it. It's not introduced as one. It's introduced as an interdictor because it has that little. It has a QED jammer drive. Oh, yeah, it's very short range, but it has a quantum dampener. And the the system on the back that can do 12 people, 6 on this side, 6 on that side, takes up almost the entire cargo bay. Uh, so I would not recommend this ship right now until they change the back, unless you really like bounty hunting. This is a dream vessel for a bounty hunter at that price point. You can do a ton of bounty work. Remember, you got to capture them alive. You take their body, you can put it in there. Um, Down the line, this is going to be a very powerful ship for a bounty hunter. And a lot of people have said, I wish I could take the upgrades, the cockpit, the weapon systems, and the shielding, and put these onto the Cutlass Black, the Cutlass Red, whatever, uh, the cheaper Cutlasses. And you can partially. You can switch out some of the weapons in game, buy them with UEC, and put them on the red or the black. But you really aren't going to have the same exact package that the Cuddy Blue has, and the look and the coolness factor. So Cuddy Black is a buy. I just caution. It's a 2.49 million ship in game. Bear that in mind as well. Could be a buying game, but I see this as any bounty hunter pick it up. Corsair. Corsair is one of those that's it's a dream ship. It could be a meme ship depending on who you talk to. It has a lot of forward firepower. It is a explorer. The way everything goes with the Corsair, you have to remember that really it's kind of like a 3 to 4 crew member ship. And it's an explorer. Explorers tend to have that requirement on crew that actually really will have things for everyone to do, especially once you get to the sites that you're working out of. And with the Corsair, I mean, you're just talking about an incredible amount of weapon systems. You're talking about 4 size 4s, 2 size 3s. That's the forward facing weapon systems, along with 8 size 3 missiles. That's all pilot controlled. And I guess co-pilot control technically too, if you share duties. And then you have the 4 size 2s and the 2 size 2s on the turrets. You can. It's a pretty incredible ship. It has good coverage for the most part. It is forward facing though. I can see this ship as working in a small gang, as a ship that is designed to kind of be the one that scans out wrecks and such like that all along these moons that are in the middle of nowhere. Maybe even sharing its quarters, support quarters with smaller ships. The Buccaneer I just picked on. I could see, for example, this ship moving around with a Buccaneer, at least locally, and the Buccaneer can stop by and grab some food and drink or something. But if you're really into the Drake capability, that may be a thing. It has a decent amount of quantum fuel tanks, which of course the Buccaneer couldn't keep up with, but or any other of the smaller ships that are not explorer ships. But it does have a lot of firepower. It is very good on the utility front, like many of the Drake ships. I do like the fact that it has 2 size 2 shields. It is one of those ships that will probably get recon. I wouldn't even be surprised if it gets a size 3. I mean, you're at 3 to 4 crew on board on a long distance ship. It's a lot of forward facing firepower, so you're dealing with a lot of situational problems where if a heavy fighter can get sneaked behind you, you only have there's only 1 turret on the back. And hopefully these 2 turrets can help stave off. You're going to need some shields to really make do with that situation. But it is a very cool ship. I think this is going to be really neat. It does have that ramp in the back that allows you to do all sorts of different work. The way the paperwork talks about bounties and such, I don't know. I don't know if it has any special bounty capabilities. I haven't seen them. But I can say that it has the full services, the bathroom, the food, and everything. And it is built for a long range exploration. So this is like the ship. If you don't want to buy a Carrack, you can get this. If you don't want a 315P, that's too small for you. you can get this, from the Origin 300 series, which has scanners as well. If you're not a fan of the Connie Aquila, this is what you're looking for. Definitely that specific size. Like, think Connie Aquila when you think this. And if you're not a fan of the Akani and the snub and the way the Connie aesthetic is and the way the Connie's turret placement and weapon systems are, and you don't want to wait for the Golden Pass, pick up a Corsair. You'll be happy. And it's a very reasonable price point for what it is. I definitely recommend this ship. It's got 72 SCU. That'll probably be updated slightly as the ship grit. I think this ship has probably got the older SCU. I would argue maybe it can end up with 90 or 100 SCU, so I wouldn't really frown at that too much. And who knows? I mean, if I was thinking of this ship in 2022, I would say that, like, when I don't know how far along it is in the pipeline now, but I would seriously consider marketing it with some type of external cargo on the back of it. It'd be really cool on top of, like, tractor beam work to work. Um, Almost every ship in the game's gonna have a tractor beam, and so definitely an exploration vessel. So, but I think the real claim to fame is you look at all these weapons. I mean, it's just very forward facing. Anyway, that's wild speculation. That probably won't happen, external cargo or anything. But anyway, the Caterpillar is the next ship. Definitely a buy, with one massive caveat that I wish it was back at its original price point. The Caterpillar has climbed and climbed and climbed. I think they took a look at all the modularity in the front. We have seen many different kinds of things that go inside this ship's concepts. If you look at the old, very, very dated and old around the verses that talked about the original concepts for these four modular rooms behind the front one that had shops. There was concepts to have, like, at least some basic medical bed. There's a lot of really crazy things. Specialized cargo for fuel. We've heard all sorts of interesting things that are possible. And I think that's what's excitement. It's like the Endeavor. Nowhere near, I mean, the value of the Endeavor. But certainly a ship that's in-game already, has a good amount of cargo, 576 SCU, directly comparable to the Hercules. Heck, it was the original Hercules, so to speak. Has a nice coverage with its tractor beam area here from its tractor beam station. Has, in the future, detachable extra ship. The entire command module becomes a ship that can go explore, and still has all these turrets, coverage, weapons. I made the point that this is one of the better ships for Ninetales Lockdown and Zenithreat Incursion, because it's just got it's got a lot going on. I mean, it's got a pile of size 3, size 2, size 4 on the cannon. You start putting people in the 2-man turrets. You've got a lot to work with on this ship. And for its price point, even at its price point that's been upped, it's pretty interesting. Now, when we look at the CCU game version of it, I'm trying just to see. Come on. So the CCU version drops the price by, it looks like, $25. So, okay. That's not great. That's not terrible. I feel like I'm in that Chernobyl movie. Okay, the miniseries. The at that price point, I can certainly recommend it, especially at that CCU price point. So if you were willing to pony up the difference between the ship you already have and $305, this is a great war bond option, especially with all the modularity, especially with what we're going to see this ship do. It's going to make you money now. It's going to be great for the near future. It's going to be great for the long term. I really like the ship for that reason. I think this is a lot of the good in Drake is in this ship. Also, this is one of the few ships I'd recommend the paints on. They're really cool, and they completely change the feel of the ship. When you're sitting up in these command module, which you see a lot of the ship in your command module, it really gives you a vibe of the ship, and it really makes it more exciting, more fun. So if you don't like the look of Drake, you don't have to. You don't have to look at Drake. You can make this thing look like a you can make this thing look like a white like a Apple store or something. You can also change it to camo. You can change it to gold when the gold events come around. So there is a event right near Halloween that it's called Ghoulish Green. They make it, and I really like the look of it. They added the Ghoulish Green this year as a paint for this large ship. They started out with the cutlasses, and I remarked it's kind of like a rusted gold look, if that was such a thing, which isn't a thing, but if it was, and it looks beautiful. It really does. It shimmers and everything, and this whole thing is now that ghoulish green color. If you pick that, it's I don't know $7 or something paint. I don't know why it's back to the Corsair. I guess my chain got kind of messed up when I clicked on that one buyback button. It's a shame it doesn't remember my location. I'm logged in. So okay, so we go from the planetary surface here to the Kraken and the Kraken privateer. This is the end of the line for these ships. When I think of the Kraken and the Kraken privateer, I look at that light carrier and I laugh at it. I look at the 4 pads it has, which this Cutlass can't fit on, that you can fit like a Buccaneer or some normal sized fighter. I think of the 2 hangars. That's the medium sized pads. That Cutlass can fit on that. But I think of the two medium pads right here and right here. I think of the 4 smaller pads that are designed to fit a Buccaneer or a bit larger of a fighter. I think of the 2 Buccaneer sized hangars underneath that can fit yet 2 more and have them worked on with full services. I think of the trolley system that allows you to bring cargo and modules and ammunition directly out to these ships and refueling capacity. And then I remember that the privateer version does have some significant differences over the privateer. The Kraken. I want you to remember these prices before we kind of jump into this. The Kraken being 1650 USD and the privateer being an eye-watering 2000. So we are talking about $350 difference between these ships. Okay. Now, this is the back of the privateer and the Kraken. So like right here, basically underneath the ship. There's like a whole bunch of crew quarters. There's access to the big size guns. And I would say that out of everything, it is something that you need to think about with all of these vehicles is the size 8 man turret on the front covering these both positions is about one of the few things that are alike on these ships, because the whole back of the ship looks like this. So on the left is the traditional Kraken. This is a direct picture from when the Kraken privateer was introduced at CitizenCon. So what you can see on here, and I have a whole video about this, so I'm not going to go completely like deep, but I will go a little depth here. I don't want to make you go hunt down the video, just know if you want the base value of why it's different. You see these big circles? These are auxiliary fuel tanks. They're 2 stories tall. That little white blurry dot, that's a person. That's a person right there. And also, to the right of it is the Dragonfly bays. So there's 4. I take that back. It was 4. I thought it was 8. But anyway, they go in there, and then there's a mechanism that pulls them up and out through this to deploy them. And it's pretty cool because the Dragonfly Bay allows you to utilize like the equivalent of a shuttle program. Like these are like interfleet flight. So the idea is like if you're at a port as well, you could use them, but or if you're in a fleet, you could use these to get back and forth because this thing can fly in space. It's not well, but it can. So the idea with these Dragonflies is going to be that they're like the MPOV cargo, the MPOV personnel of this ship. They can kind of grab a tiny little bit of SCU or a data piece to transfer to another ship, or just transport a crew member back and forth on a ship. Remember, they can seat 2 people on these Dragonflies, so you can EVA over and come back, assisted by the Dragonfly. So those are the 2 major things that are up top on these ships. If we go to the privateer, the large auxiliary fuel tanks that are designed to assist with refueling all the ships on the pads and in the hangars are replaced with 10 HABs. I believe that by the time this actually comes out, there'll be another set of HABs here or here, because they do have kind of like a hangout, like little tables for the people in the HABs to stand at and they kind of eat and hang out if they want a communal space, but they also have the private spaces in their HABs. These are meant for shopkeepers. There's 10 HABs and there's 10 shops. There's 8 public and 2 private shops. If you look, the 2 private shops take up more space, and they are meant for like people that are trusted by the organization that owns the ship, the owner of the ship, and they're meant to be places where you can sell basically anything you want, anything. So like illicit things like drugs or fancy guns or whatever, if you're near Lorville or something. And then the other shops are basically, they are going to be checked by the local authorities. The customs agents will wander around. Once in a blue moon they'll show up, and you better be legit down here, not up here. So that's kind of the deal with this ship. Now, you lose the HAPs, you lose the Dragonfly Bay. The other thing to remember is that the cargo bay on the Kraken is 3,792 SCU as of right now. Remember, it is in development, so it could change slightly. And they said that when this ship first came out, it was in a different world. 3,792 SCU was a big deal. This was before the hull series was really actively embraced, for lack of a better word, and they were starting to panic. They started limiting the hull E. They started talking about economy of scale and all these other things. And there is direct video of John Crew talking about the original Kraken and saying their economists were sweating from CIG about seeing the sheer size of this room. He says they looked at the room and they started sweating about what can we do with this cargo, about how overkill this cargo is, etc. Like he didn't say the word overkill, but like that was the gist I got, was that this was meant to be something that they were worried about. And when you look at the cargo, you can see that it was split into piles. He said that. That's what one of the things they did. Instead of having one pile of cargo that goes from front to back, they split it into silos, like little pieces of this room. They also stopped it from going to the ceiling. You can see that as well. Now, I didn't mention that, but I'm looking at it, and I can clearly see they didn't fully utilize the entire room. And then, obviously, you need some room for a gantry, but we know on the Banu Merchantman, they're okay with squeezing that one full. So, and the Banu Merchantman is not necessarily exactly here. I think it's 2,800 SCU, but I mean, it's hard to ignore the Banu Merchantman. It's a smaller ship, much smaller ship. But I can't help but notice the Banu Merchantman has a full cargo load, and the Kraken Traditional does not. Now, on to the Kraken Privateer in general. The Kraken Privateer sacrifices over 2,700 or something like that SCU. This thing has like 900 something SCU. It literally sacrifices close to 2/3 of the cargo area. And it is something where the cargo areas are split up on the privateer. Inside each one of those designs, sorry, I'm back here, has a storage area above, the shop below. Storage area above, shop below. And they said, no, you cannot share cargo areas amongst the shops. So they're each one of those 192 or so SCU containers for the shop needs to be utilized for just that shop. If that shop runs out, oh well. Maybe you can pull it out of the cargo area, which is separate from the shop areas. But, you only have 900 SCU or so. So I've heard some very innovative folks talk about how they will fill the shop areas with their cargo needs. So if you're not using the shops, you can just squeeze them full of stuff. But I urge that to keep in mind that there is 10 cargo areas. That means you have to run around and constantly remove cargo. And the cargo regular area is not big enough to accept all the cargo from the shop. So even if there is an automated process of shopkeeps slowly stacking all the stuff up, moving it in carts or something, or whatever the gantry can do, whatever can be done, it will take time because you will need to do it in multiple steps. Load it in a cargo, unload the cargo, load it in a cargo, unload the cargo, You can see what I'm getting at here. This ship is more straightforward. However, this is the trust ship out of the two. This ship comes preloaded, like as if it's going to have a public and private side. On the Kraken, it's more of, oh, you want to get my fuel and ammunition work and maybe do some light repairs on the top deck. Cool, but you're going to have to pay me ahead of time, and my big cannon will negotiate. So basically, you come near, when you negotiate a price, you send the fair wage over, you stay inside your ship. One of the crew members is inside the size 8 dual gun, overlooking the whole activity, and make sure that there's no attempts to take the ship or attempts to break into the ship, etc., and start snooping around. And then they take off and they leave. With the Kraken Privateer, you have they land or they dock. Which this one also can dock, to be fair. Both can dock. But then they come into a public-facing cargo area that has now been refit to be a bunch of public-facing shops. And you can even have guards. You can really make it right. And then there's proper controls over who is allowed to go further into the ship. Remember what we talked about with the private shops. They're directly already interfaced with the lifts and everything else, the other mechanisms to get in and out of the public-facing side to get into the private side of the ship. The ship is more designed to handle people that shouldn't, you might not trust 100%. I will also mention that the Privateer has massive fuel base. It just doesn't have those huge auxiliary fuel tanks. So, something to remember about this ship is that those fuel tanks will still be usable to refuel all the other ships on top and in your hangar. It will just take them out of its own stores. Therefore, if you are constantly refueling other ships, and only if you're doing that, so you have all these ships and you're constantly sending them on missions, this ship, the Kraken, has longer legs than the Kraken Privateer. Additionally, due to the fact it has an immensely larger SCU of storage size, the Kraken, in theory, we don't know the exact size of outpost modules yet, but I mean, the thing has 3,792 SCU. It is entirely possible that you could deploy like a single room outpost or something off of this ship. And you would have the storage space for all the ground vehicles to want to start building an FOB or something like that. And start actually doing work on the ground. Whereas the Kraken Privateer is more meant to land there, sell your wares, have people come in, and then it moves on. You could also argue that because of the nature of the Privateer, it is well suited to be a spaceport, like a floating spaceport, which the Kraken is not. I see the Privateer as a specialist device. I don't like the fact that whenever these happen, what ends up happening is the credit version of the Privateer lasts a lot longer than the Kraken credit version. So unfortunately, a lot of people who want a Kraken end up having to spend more and get a Privateer. The good news is you can upgrade it at Cousin Crow's for an immense amount of money to change the Privateer back to a traditional Kraken. You're not trapped with that ship. And remember, you will keep your LTI. So, that's all my thoughts on the Kraken and the Kraken Privateer in a nutshell without boring you with all the specifics. But I hope I went in depth enough for you to make a large purchase decision or credit purchase decision. And I will wish you luck if you earn the F5 wars for the next Wave 2, as Wave 2 and Wave 3. I think that this would be the way to go, the Kraken. You can always upgrade it to a Privateer if you change your mind. The upgrades are available at these sales, and I am hopeful that by the time these are in game, Cousin Crows will literally let you just spend the UEC in game already and upgrade it, or de-upgrade it for the Privateer. So whichever one you pick, I wish you luck. I think that Drake Day is one of those days where you really step back and you say, what is my options here? What am I going for? I don't recommend a pack like this because I'm in concierge. That's what the symbol means. I can see these packs. I look at the war bond and I look at the credit. I always look at the credit variant, even though it's way more. I guarantee this will have LTI. I mean, there you go, LTI, and I'm sure it has Krakens in it. That's why the price is up. You see dual Kraken and Kraken Privateer. But even that, for example, even if you had the money to do this, credit or money, physical war bond money, I strongly urge not to do this, because if you're the kind of person that has oh, for goodness sake, if you're the kind of person that has a Kraken or wants a Kraken, I don't think you're the kind of person who wants a Kraken privateer, and vice versa. If you're the kind of socialite or org master that wants to make their cash off of selling to friendlies or neutrals, etc., I don't see the Kraken privateer as something that would go well with a Kraken. Don't get me wrong. I think they can go together. I'm just questioning, should they? That's kind of where I'm going with this. There's other vessels I feel would support the Kraken privateer better than a traditional Kraken. And there's ships that are designed to work directly alongside the Kraken I would want to focus my efforts on than spending all my credit or my cash on a second Kraken that happens to be the mall model. So it just slash space station slash that kind of thing. That's more meant for like semi-mobile nature and selling. I in my eyes, I prefer the Kraken. I just like the play style. I trust my org mates very, very much so. I mean, in Eve, I would literally trust people with capital class ships, and constantly. And only a few times was I ever let down. I think you have to be careful about the company you keep, and as long as you treat them well, and they treat you well, and you don't ignore warning signs, I think you're gonna be fine with the Kraken. If you're looking for that public-facing side, or large alliances are built through multiple orgs, etc., and you're looking to be that person, you know who you are. This is your ship, the privateer. It's a perfect ship for you, but not for me. So that's kind of where my head's at. I think that a lot of folks are people that work alongside other orgs, by the way. Corpse and Eve works in this game. And build alliances and such. And even then, like, fleets and friends you make and everything else outside of it are great. But there's a certain different level where you want to start acting as a service for such a large organization. You want to be the salesperson for that group, the marketplace. And that's where I kind of draw the line. I'm like, I don't really see myself being that. So yes, sorry. I'm going in depth because I'm hoping that you pick the right one for you. That's my goal. I'm trying to go through I don't want you spending a 2,000 USD and then going, oh shucks, I made a mistake, or 4,000 and up. Like, the Warbond's 4250 USD, 4730 for the credit version of the Drake Complete pack. I think yesterday's pack, which is still available for the Argo pack, is way better than 630 USD for credit. I think it is. Very cool pack, or very close to that price. Very cool pack. That's worth it. That's LTI. If you're looking for LTI tokens and you're looking for a good fill, like, you can keep the Argo ships you like and then LTI token the rest, that's a good pack. I will mention with packs in general, one thing to remember is you can't melt them. So once you start upgrading one ship in this, you're basically stuck with that pack forever. But because if you melt it, you lose the CCU. But I will say that it's still worth it to my eyes, especially if it's a pack, like, for example, the Argo pack. It's not a high value pack, so you're not tying up like your entire credit in that one pack. That would certainly, if you're in that level of considerations, it's worth it. Okay, that is Drake Day on this. I thank you for watching, and remind those who have not subscribed yet to consider subscribing, and I thank my long-term subscribers for sticking around. It's you I make these videos for. Thank you to everybody who's new to Star Citizen, returning, and ongoing players. It's really been an awesome community, and I can't wait to see what comes next. Drake is one of those companies that I think some people malign, that were put on a pedestal, and I think Drake would prefer to be left alone in either way, and they're too busy getting their work done. So keep that in mind. Anyway, fly safe, enjoy the rest of your IAE, take care.